Supersonic. Super destructive. Unresistible.
What's coming your way is just what it seems. She's going to blow you to smithereens. No later can find her location, 'cause her name is Annihilation, and she's gonna find you wherever you are. Your lifeline is short, much shorter than mine. Deadly precision, believe you no time. Sun, water, Mercedes, and seeker. Your body's glowing red to lead her, and she's gonna find you wherever you are. Problem solved, business done. From the Falkland shores to Vietnam. Sun, water, Mercedes, and seeker. Your body's going red to lead her, and she's gonna find you wherever you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, baseball fans and history buffs, welcome to the special presentation of the Big Game James Show, presented by ThinkSlinger.org.
Pitch, swinging a long drive, deep left field, going, let's go!
And now, presenting your most provocative host, Big Game James.
And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, live for the first time, completely live from the historic city of New Orleans, Louisiana. We bring you the Big Game James Show. Very special episode of The Week in Baseball. This is the second week coming up in the Major League Baseball campaign, and a lot has happened this first week. In fact, just one look through the standings brings shockwaves down my spine. As who'd have thought Washington and Miami are fighting for the cellar in the National League East. That is just absolutely incredible. After this first week, you can never, you just can't put all your money into something after such a small sample first week. But seriously, the Washington Nationals are only besting Miami, the Marlins, in the National League East. The Marlins, by the way, are one of my picks to make it to the playoffs. So I'm just wrong all over. And I also picked the Nationals to win the National League East. So I'm just wrong all over. However, if you go on up to the American League Central, Detroit and Kansas City, the Royals, they could still win 162 games this season. That's crazy. Detroit sitting at 6-0 and KC at 5-0. Fortunately, there are no teams that could possibly finish 0-162 after this first week. But nevertheless, the first week is in the books, and we're going to be talking about that. The biggest headline is that 19-inning marathon that Boston and New York gave us the other night. I was kind of happy about that because I subscribe to MLB TV, and I got to watch baseball all night long thanks to Boston and New York's marathon. Thanks, guys. But yeah, for real, let's not see too many of those this season. Major League Baseball is already complaining about games going on way too long, and we're going to get into those rules. At least I'm going to give you some of my opinions on some of these new rule changes later on in the broadcast, as well as our headlines for today. One of the headlines, can the Nationals still win 100 games? I'm going to reveal my answer to that shortly, as soon as I can bring up my notes. Yeah, can the Nationals do the Nationals stand a chance to win 100 games? And also, we're going to talk about the Cubs, the Cubbies. Are they going to grow up? I'm going to answer that question as well. What about the question on everyone's minds? Who's going to win the World Series? It is far too answer too early. Yeah, I was actually about to say that. It's far too early to answer that one. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Every single team in Major League Baseball stands a chance to win the World Series right now. And I'm not talking about just because it's the beginning of the season. I'm speaking loudly on this because every team really does stand a chance this year. And I'll get into why I think so. We're also going to discuss the old York Yankees. That is the New York Yankees and the oldest lineup in baseball. We're going to discuss that briefly, as well as the return of Alex Rodriguez. Some of you guys are going to be mad, but I think it's a great thing. Also, we're going to discuss runs. How many are teams actually going to score runs this year? Of course they are, but we're going to speak about. We're going to discuss how many. I mean, we might see the lowest mark since 1981. And also, of course, those rules I was talking about, I'm going to give you my opinion on that. And my predictions have changed ever so slightly. Last week, I made some predictions that I wish I could just eat my words right now. I also declared that not Pat Tanaka, my mind's on wrestling as well. Pat Tanaka. No, I'm talking about Tanaka, the pitcher for the New York Yankees. Only he can shush the naysayers. He did not get off to a very good start. I predicted that he would. His elbow is fine. He did strike out 6 batters, but he gave up a ton of runs, 5, which is a lot for a starting pitcher, especially for the New York Yankees. We're going to get into that and we're going to start with my main headline. Can the Nationals keep it 100? As most baseball enthusiasts know, no team has won 100-plus games for 3 years straight, dating back 3 seasons, that is. It is the longest such drought since the 162-game schedule began way back in 1961. The Nationals stand, mark my words, the Nationals will end that drought this year thanks to the game's best pitching staff and a deep, absolutely loaded lineup. The Nationals had baseball's best rotation last year. That is last year. And this, of course, I'm compiling this statistic based on wins above replacement. That is WAR, a sabermetric used by nerds. I am one of those, just in case you didn't figure it out by now. They also have a ton of free agency money from last year that they spent on. They spent most of it on Max Scherzer, who got off to a rocky start, but believe me, he's going to turn it around, and which allowed them to move a guy who had last year's 16th best ERA among all of the qualified starters in the league. That is Tanner Roark. They sent him to the bullpen. So yeah, they have depth in the bullpen now, thanks to the addition of Tanner Roark. Their schedule. Now, granted, Atlanta is sitting on top of the National League East right now with only 1 loss. And the Nationals are battling with Miami over last place. But guess what, folks? That is going to change, and it might change as soon as this week. The Nationals have a schedule packed with games against divisional doormats, the Phillies, and the rebuilding Braves, which should help Washington just coast to the playoffs as the year sort of irons itself out. So should a full season of Bryce Harper hopefully will not be injured this year. The 22-year-old phenom who, despite constant claims that he's a bust, it's way too early to say that. It's not like he's Brian Bosworth, ladies and gentlemen. And that's football anyway. But anyhow, the 22-year-old phenom has amassed more WAR, speaking of the statistic, through his season as a 21-year-old than all but 3 players in the history of the league. And here's a fun fact for you. Entering his 4th season, Bryce Harper has yet to face a pitcher younger than him. So the Nationals, in this closing remark, the Nationals are going to win 100 games. Just hang in there. They got off to a rough start. They didn't look bad at all. they just got off to a rocky start. And plenty of teams get off to rocky starts and go on to win titles. Well, that brings us to the Cubs. We're going to stay with the National League here, folks. The Cubs, who are all of ESPN's talking heads, the talking eggs, ladies and gentlemen, at ESPN. Let's crack them up here, make some breakfast out of it. The Cubs are a popular breakout pick this season for a very good reason. I'm not going to shy away from that at either. The Cubs look great. They greatly underperformed last year. That is, they did not perform to the statistics. And of course, teams play their games on the field, which is not a statistic, but we can derive some conclusions from these statistics. Though they grade roughly as a 500 team. But however, these guys went out and signed John Lester, the dominant ace John Lester. He's going to put together a great season. They also pried the game's best manager away from the Tampa Bay Rays, who are looking more like the Triple Rays again. They took their manager Joe Madden. Rather, they took him fairly. I don't want to put any false presumptions out there. I have to watch my language on radio. But you're going to have to bear with me because watching my language is not something I'm very good at times. But you get the gist. They took Joe Madden from the Tampa Bay Rays, and they made a flurry of smaller moves to remedy last year's weaknesses. Chicago also has a host of solid young talent approaching their prime years, and just a ton of top prospects waiting in the wings, including Chris Bryant, who's set to come up soon. He is a dinger. Make no mistake about it. Chris Bryant also got off to a rough start in AAA, but you know what? Mark my words, he's going to come up and he's going to show us all that he deserves to be here. He should be getting the call within the next 2 weeks. Plus, Hollywood never lies. As I talked about it last week, I talked about this very thing last week. Back to the Future predicted the Cubs would break their near century-long curse with a World Series title in 2015. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to win the title, but they are going to be contenders. And the team they're supposed to win the title from, the Miami Marlins, they're going to be the spoilers. Miami's going to beat them in the playoffs. But look, this is going to be a great season for the Chicago Cubs, and their fans are going to be very happy with the season they put together, as the same goes for Miami. Miami Marlins are going to be great. Giancarlo Stanton is going to bust out. He's going to have a career year. He better, because he's on my fantasy team. Anyhow. On to parity in the USA, in the great United States of America. All but a handful of teams believe that they can win the World Series this year. And guess what? None of them are wrong. Increased revenue sharing, a competitive balance tax, and most importantly, the introduction of a second wild card has made it easier than ever for any team to go the distance. Every team stands a chance, not at just the playoffs this year, but the World Series. As you know, anything can happen in the playoffs. Last year, the O's went down in the playoffs, and Baltimore was certainly a lot of people's pick. They were supposed to win it, but lo and behold, KC, the Royals, the Cinderella Royals, made it all the way to the World Series, knocking out the Baltimore Orioles on their way. Not just knocking them out, but they swept them. They freaking swept the Orioles in the playoffs. On their way to the World Series, though, they did ultimately lose to San Francisco, and just the gem that Madison Bumgarner pitched in the World Series. Teams have plenty of games to get into the playoffs this season. It's only week 1, ladies and gentlemen, and a quick look at the standings isn't going to reveal any revelations, but you should look at them anyway, because they're very interesting. Most of the teams that are supposed to be sitting at the top are sitting at the bottom right now. And I won't go into that, but you go ahead and just take a look for yourselves over at MLB.com or at ESPN.com. They're the best in the game. Both of those websites are the best in the game when it comes to keeping you updated on all stats,